There we go. Oh, wow. Hey, everybody. Hi. Hello. Welcome. This is how I style my hair. I'm going for like a organized chaos type of vibe. You know what I mean? How's everybody doing today? So I just came back from the store with my grandmother. Um, she was on the phone last night. Something weird is happening. Now, I'm not saying I'm psychic, but I woke up to go to the bathroom. And I didn't look at like my phone or anything, but something just told me like I was like, "Oh, it's 9 o'clock, isn't it?" And then I look at the clock in the bathroom and it's like 9:15. I was like, but I didn't look at any like I had a not a memory, but I was like, because I was like, what time is it? And then I was like, wait, didn't I look at something that said it was 9 o'clock? But I didn't look at anything until I looked at the bathroom mirror. And last night my grandmother was on the phone with my mother. My mother was on the phone with my grandmother. And my grandma said that it's my fault that it's cold, that it's been this cold for this long because I'm celebrating my birthday all month. And I'm like, but what one thing got to do with the other? It's not like I asked for snow on my birthday. Um, and like, I wanted to get some breakfast for some fast food breakfast. And I had the thought to ask my mom, to ask my grandma while she was on the phone with her if she had anything to do this morning. But by the time I made it back, she was already off the phone. And we have a Marco Polo group. Me, my mom, her sister, her mother, and they kids. So it's like my grandmother's kids and grandchildren, basically. Um, and my grandma got on and she was in the car, so I called her up real quick. I was like, "Where are you going?" "I need to go to the bank." She was already headed to the bank. We got another cart, full battery, out in the parking lot. Uh, it was kind of sad though, because I was like sitting in I got the little motor cart for my grandma, and I was holding it until she parked. And then my grandma, when she was, and of course it didn't happen until she was walking up to the door, which I felt a little less bad about. Um, but when I was about to give her the cart, somebody came up to me and asked, like, "Are you done with that?" And I was like, "Oh, we just about to go in." I said, "It's for my grandma." And apparently the other ones were like dead or not charged or something. I don't know. But something told me that she would be going out today. Just like something told me it was like 9 o'clock. Now, today is going to be a special day. It's not extremely special. Um, but I have a little incense thing I'm going to light. And I got my little singing bowl. I'm going to strike. And today we'll just get into whatever we get into. I don't even know what deck I'm using yet. I have so many just out now. That's one of the things that so like I was born and raised in the church. And so hey Zelda. And so the cards aren't necessarily something that aligns with, how the church naturally aligns necessarily. But because I told everybody, I my cards are just out. I was like, yeah, that's something that I didn't necessarily expect to do. How are you doing, Zelda? But I did it. I had some encouragement. I had a lot of encouragement. And I'm glad. I'm glad. So I'm gonna light this little thing. Oh wow. Ooh, they didn't modernize. Hold it, wait. Hold it. There we go. Okay. Well, that flame is high. There we go. Oh, look how bright that is. Oh, it's about to fall. I'm gonna just let it cinder for a moment. I don't have it set up where I can have like the little smoke blowing in. I don't know why I felt like doing this because these things were only $1 today. They were only $1, and the one that we have is like out of lighter fluid. You're working on your taxes, waiting to see your little girl later today. Well, first a little work and then a little play, right? So hopefully it don't oops, excuse me, doesn't take you too long to make it through your taxes. This thing is so hard to put out though. Um, and you enjoy your time with your little girl later. I'm doing really well. Thank you for asking. I'm at a sort of crossroads in my life, I guess. Not really. It's just that I need to start doing something. But part of me, yeah, but I'm doing well. I have no complaints. You got your final arcade. Oh, snap. Well, glad you got the ultra rare final thing you needed to finish the collection. Woo. Oh, gosh. See, look, I keep trying to put it out, but it won't go out. It just, this thing does not want to go out after I light it. I was just talking yesterday. I don't use incense or nothing else. Well, I did say that my dad got it for me. So I don't know. Today just feels like the day to light it, to just be at peace. Today feels like a day to be at ease. And I was like, yeah, why not? You know? Can y'all hear that? Okay. Apparently, this is a solar plexus bowl. Did I tell y'all that? I don't remember if I did. Anyway, so one of my friends, who she's been like one of my best friends, we met in middle school. She used to call me Fish. I found out later that she called me Fish because she didn't know my name, but she remembered that I was a Pisces. And I was like, at first, I thought she called me Fish because it was cool. And I was like, oh, I kind of like it. And then she was like, yeah, I just didn't know your name. I was like, oh, well, you know. Um, but in 2015, I think it was, we went to, was it 2015? It was like, yeah, because I was on campus, I believe. It had to be like 2015, 2016. We went to St. Louis over the summer. That was the first year I went to Pride. I didn't know we were going for Pride because it was kind of a surprise. And I think it was later, maybe I found out, oh, it's like Pride weekend in St. Louis. Um, but we went to the zoo and in the souvenir shop, and I completely forgot about this until I was talking to her the other day. And I was like, yeah, I got a singing bowl. Like, remember when we were at the zoo, you picked one up. She was like, oh, I bought that. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, I bought it. So, I mean, I just got mine last year, and our bowls are related. So she has the heart chakra bowl in this series of bowls, and I have the solar plexus. And I was like, oh, snap. And it was just funny how that worked out because it was like years later. This thing do not want to. Okay, but you gonna take my whole little incense stick? Hello. There we go. I put it out. Was I supposed to put it all the way out? Out? Is something still coming off of it? Maybe I wasn't. I don't know how to use it. It's fine. It went out when it was supposed to go out. My mom doesn't really like the smell, so I'm in the back of the house. And she can smell it. She has a nose like a hawk. Um, but what am I getting into today? I was at the store today for some reason. I think also on a like random side note, I think something is affecting my Venus because there's been a few times it's weird. Whenever I have like a good Venus transit lately, it seems, or if like the moon is conjuncting my Venus or something like that, for some reason, like people just start looking more beautiful to me. And I start like noticing things about people that I've never noticed. And it happened last night. I was like, what? I was like, wow, his eyes are gorgeous. I've never noticed his eyes before. I'm like, I've been watching this man for months now, and I've never noticed his eyes. And then I was at the store today. After that, I was like, I need to check and see where Venus is at. So Venus is 22 degrees. So I have a Venus sextile. Also, Venus would be in the space of conjuncting my Saturn. Um, it would be trining my Jupiter. Anyway, I was at the store looking at the cashiers. I'm like, oh my gosh, like they're gorgeous. I was like, where did all these gorgeous people come from? I don't know. And it's happened like a few times before where people just look extra beautiful. I'm like, okay, well, I am the beholder, so beauty is in mine eye wherever I gaze. Um, what else? First card of moon and Gemini. Venus square natal Pluto starts today. Sun in Pisces, deep reflection. Okay. What am I doing today? What am I doing? I want to use a spread in a book that I haven't done. So I guess I'll pull these. Oh, I wanted to get this today. So this was yesterday's. Oh, this might help a little bit. There you go. That might help a lot a bit. This was yesterday's. Oh, I'm gonna have to put these back on. Caraway seeds. What is this? Oh, first quarter moon today. That means we're halfway to the full moon, right? Caraway seeds are actually dried fruit. They are commonly used to flavor breads, cakes, cheese, meats, pickles, and soups. Used to flavor a lot of stuff. That's interesting. I just a video for a dish where they did puffed rice just came up and I watched it. And she used red dates, peanuts, cranberries, and another fruit. I don't remember. And it reminds me of when I went to the neighborhood iftar 2 years ago. No, that was 2019. And what it was on campus or in the camp. It's a campus town. So in town, there was a Muslim society or something, and they wanted to like educate the community on like Ramadan and things of that nature. And a friend of a friend was helped like organize it. And the friend of the friend asked the friend if I would like come. And so the friend asked me, and I said, yeah. And the friend was like, oh, I thought you would have said no. And usually I would have said no. um, you're a Leo Venus. I'm a Aries Venus. It's a little slow. My Aries Venus is like super slow. But once it's like on, then it's on. Um, and we broke fast with the date and some water. And I was like, oh snap, this is the first time I've had a date on a Saturday night or something like that. Or maybe, and they had a bag of kisses. So I posted somewhere, I was like, kisses and a date on a Friday night or something like that. I don't know. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. And I think there was a lot of conversation, not a lot of conversation, but a conversation around spirituality and religion and like faith and things of that nature. And it was really good because at that point, Um, I was like, that was summer 2019. So I was like a few months into like my journey. And like I guess I don't know, I had a lot of anxiety about like what if like I'm by people that I don't know or whatever. But it was fine. It was interesting. It was a very pleasurable experience. And then we got some food after because they catered it and it was pretty good. But anyway, I was in the store earlier today, um, and I'm looking around, and it seemed kind of like business as usual. Like it was fairly busy this morning. Usually, when you go a little earlier, the older crowd is out, and I went with my grandmother, so you know she was part of the crowd. Um, and it's like it looks kind of business as usual, except people are like wearing masks. And then I thought about how like in some, whatever metaphorical way, we've always been wearing masks, but now we can see them. And it's like, oh, and I guess it's also interesting to me the amount of power that we give a piece of cloth. It's like, oh, if you wear the mask, then it's like you doing this and you doing that, and we can't breathe, and without the air, then we're spiritually dead or whatever. And to me, it's just like, well, like powerful as we are we not like is cloth covering our mouths and noses our kryptonite? Is that gonna be the thing that lets the Lex Luthor like win? It's like, yeah, just a mask, a piece of cloth, and it'll take them all out. It's like, oh. I feel like quite a few things are being made very plain and obvious in some ways. I mean, what's the most obvious is again what we're not willing to do to move things along, and how quickly and how easily we give so much away to so many things, if nothing else. But that ain't necessarily what we're talking about today. I was just like, oh, I mean, you know, even if we weren't wearing the masks, we would still be wearing masks out in public. Right. I'm loving the angle. This shirt catches nipple like no other. It just, I don't understand why it does, but it does. And like we had to wear these shirts at work. And so there were some like females who were wearing the shirts, and a nipple is a nipple on anybody body. But it was just like, and then even the dudes, I'm like, okay, goodness. I don't know why it catches nipples so aggressively. I think one day I was a little self conscious about it. So I grabbed some tape from the tape dispenser, and then I went to the bathroom and like put tape over my nipple so it wouldn't like poke out of the shirt, but it still poked out of the shirt. I'm like, okay. But my ex roomie, he was like, yeah, that's why I wear like a t shirt under it. I was like, oh, that would do it. I think there's a spread in here that I want to do. I love these cards. I think they go a little deeper than I kind of want sometimes. Or not that I want, but they're very good. I feel like journey cards. Potentially. Plant medicine. It's just like a wave of clarity, maybe. I don't know. They got mirror work. They got mapping your internal landscape. I like that one. I like that one. That just sounds like something I would do. Inquiry, define the situation. Yeah. We're going to do the mapping the internal landscape spread. What to focus on? What patterns or wounds do you need to tend to? Shadow. What parts of your unconscious are playing a role in it? 3 action steps. How you need to show up for this internal work. And 4 potential. How transmuting this will manifest. This is the one I'm going to do. If you can see it. My finger was kind of in the way. That's the one. Right there. So let's get into it. I think I am actually going to like this again. Just because I'm feeling it. I can turn this flame down though. That flame was real high. Yeah, there we go. Uh-oh. I blew it out and I saw some. Oh gosh. I saw a little thing go flying. I'm a little bit of a pyromaniac, but I'm also afraid of fire. Very much so. I don't like ovens. Um, I don't use ovens. I don't know if I died in a fire in a past life. Like I love the glow. I can appreciate the glow, but like, and I don't really like heat. Like I don't like to be hot either. Um, I don't know. It's pretty though. It's real pretty. So let's get into this. Mapping the collective internal landscape. There is also a little bit of an energy of it's not frankincense energy, but there is an energy of like smoke going into the body and like cleaning it out, clearing things out. A little bit of an energetic cleansing, but it's a calm one. It's like if it were a therapy, it would be one where like the room is dimly lit, you're laying in a bed, and they're like breathe normally, and you just breathe normally in this smoke, and it does what it does. It's not a very like it's not an extremely purgy one or necessarily intense, or at least it doesn't feel that way to me. Like calming, soothing, but it does feel like there's something being like escorted out, gently escorted. Maybe it's more of something being released, like a quiet acceptance of something or something. I don't know. Oh, I don't know how these things work, y'all. Bottom of the deck is underworld. Under the underworld is take risk. Hey, look, and it's Capricorn energy. Goat at the top of the mountain. Hey. Okay. I'm gonna get jumpers today. Or fallers, flippers. Make yourself known to me. Let me see what we're doing again. I'm gonna forget. So number one is what to focus on, shadow action steps, and potential. So what do we need to focus on? Clearing the mind. I feel like it's like I don't know. There's so many. Maybe I don't even need these today because there's also this energy of like going back to that quiet acceptance and rolling the headache. There's also an energy that's like it's that quiet acceptance again. It feels like seeing things clearly, but not in a super disruptive way. In a very like calm way. It still feels calm, but it's like a disillusionment in some way. I don't know if it's because Neptune is about to like fully enter that third decan of Pisces again, or what. Because the sun is in Pisces now, maybe. So we have the potential to see the light behind the screen, or look at the film instead of the movie, the film instead of the flick. But when you're looking at the film, you see it as, there's number one. Ooh, okay. Excuse me. Number two is the shadow. When you're looking at the film, you see it as still images. When you look at the flick, you see it in motion. And it's almost an energy like the magician, like you see through the magician's trick, right? Because if you watch the magician in slow motion, and if you're paying attention, you can see the subtle movement when the thing disappeared. And it just feels like a quiet acceptance. Maybe it's surrender. Maybe that's what this feeling is. But it's like you're beginning to see, or you're going to begin to see. And when you see it, it's not going to be, I don't feel like it's going to be anything that you didn't necessarily expect. It feels more like something that you've been running away from. And then you just decide not to run anymore and to embrace it. That's a whole bunch of cards. If it's if it's more than three cards, I'm not taking them. Oh, it's three. This is a complex shadow. Okay. I'm gonna run out of incense. Only two birds and the thing gone. This must be what the oracles felt like back in the day in the caves when you get them fumes and you just channel and whatever language you channel in, and then the translators translate the message of the oracle, and then there you go. Have a good day. Next is action steps. Belief just popped into my mind. It's like seeing is believing. Oh, that's what the magician says, right? Seeing is believing. And I guess there's also this energy of like, even if you know the trick behind the trick, it doesn't make the trick any less miraculous. Like, it doesn't necessarily blow your mind any less, because even when you know how it's performed, the level of dexterity and precision of movement and effectiveness of movement, it's almost like understanding it makes you even more impressed than when you didn't understand it at all. And so in that comes a little bit of an energy of, I don't want to say understanding, because I've already said understanding a lot. It's an energy that's able to appreciate like the little things and the minor details, I guess. All right, it's time to put this out. It's time to get a little smoky. Look at all that. Y'all hear my mama? Oh, oh my gosh, I had so much. And I only got that. See, I picked it up and it was put out. These things don't want to go out. When I picked it up, it was out. I checked before I held it up. Look, I'm like, I don't smoke, so I don't have practice putting out cigarettes either. Maybe I'm not actually putting it out. And look, it's keep coming back. Hold up. Maybe if it don't, yeah, I guess I'll just let it burn then. I mean, what happened if it gets to the wood? I gotta put it out before it gets to the wood, right? I don't know. It's like understanding the trick. It impresses you even more because it's like, again, it's like how is that humanly possible? Like I understand what you did, and I still don't understand what you did because it shouldn't be able to be done. And it's an energy of a growth or evolution that leads you to understand the complexities of a certain situation. And seeing someone navigate those complexities, or even you navigating those complexities yourself from this space rather than from the space that you were stuck in. It's like you may even see things that you were doing once you come out of a situation. And it's like you're the magician in this case. Hold up, Zelda. What you say? You said prayers in almost every room in the house today. Hey. Oh, there goes my ear. Okay. How do you feel? Does the energy in the house feel clear? I remember back in the day, my mom would grab the olive oil bottle and she would like anoint every room in the house. I don't know when the last time she did that was. But it's this energy of like things that you were doing, things that you were accomplishing, ways in which you were growing that you weren't able to see at the time because you were so in it. But once you come out of it enough, you start to see some of the things that you've already been doing. And it kind of goes back to that Golden Shield Archangel Commander energy from yesterday, a little bit. Honestly, it feels like it, a little bit. But it's like, wow, like I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I did that. Like I can't believe I was doing all of this stuff that I didn't even know that I was doing. Or it could be someone else. But from where you are now, it's like you're able to appreciate it almost maybe because like you know how difficult it can be, or you just like you know what it requires. And it's easy when you don't know. Like if you've never tried to perform a trick or if you've never done something, it can be easy once you understand how it's done to be like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. Like I could do that. But when you actually try to do it, it's not until you actually try to do it that you realize the expertise and the dexterity and the what's that? It starts with a P. It's not proficiency. It's a P word, but it's like dexterity. That precision. Not necessarily precision. It's like it takes a lot more. And in knowing that, it's like again, it just like it blows your mind. It's like, oh my gosh, like it makes the trick even more impressive when you know how it's done. Can I put this out now? Oh my god. There we go. I got that much left. Maybe I should have just let it burn. I'll save that for the end of the video, I guess. I don't know. Let's see. So we got to go back to the action steps. Archangel Michael. What about Archangel Michael? Oh, the Archangel Commander? It's fashioned after Michael, but the Archangel Commander, the Michael energy that I've been feeling lately is it's like Michael giving us the sword to do what we need to do in our own lives. And it's a call to step up and to no longer sort of defer the things that we can do. And it's not that they're not there to support us and to help us, but it's almost like we're coming into a time where we need to be able to do more because the world has been relying on religion and spirituality for how long now? And we still ended up in the place that we're in today. And we're still going through what we're going through in the way that we're going through it today. That leaves no real resolution. Um, and so it came out a while ago. I don't remember, but it was a synergy of like we prayed to Michael, and Michael gives us his sword, and Michael's like, take care of it yourself. And so we get to learn to use the sword of Michael. Excuse me. And then at the end of whatever endeavor, it's like, well, here you go. Here's your sword back, Michael. And Michael's like, my sword has never left my side. That sword is yours. And so he puts us in a place, in a position to for us to understand how to use our own power and how to show up and what that looks like in a way that inherently respects the will of others, because there's only so much that we can do within ourselves. And then after that energy, it was this energy of like sparring with Michael. Michael's like, well, okay, now show me what that sword can do. Show me what I'm working with, you know, and then I'll help you get even better. But also, you know, I realize that everyone's path and journey is different, and not everyone necessarily takes that agency and that authority that's and like they can. So action steps for this. Action steps for this. And just like with Raphael and like the heart, it's like, well, we need to do things to open our own hearts. And we need to do things to really begin to allow the things in the past to be healed. And I think sometimes as humans, what we'll do is we'll hold on to negative experiences and we'll use that as, or we'll try to turn that into some form of strength. But all it does is it keeps us sort of walking around with these gaping wounds. And it's like, there's this particular experience. I'm never going to allow that to happen to me again. I will do whatever so that that doesn't happen again. And it's just like holding on to the pain of that experience rather than sort of extracting the lesson. And for me, myself, it was, again, summer 2019 was hot. It was a hot time for me. I was learning a lot because what had happened was I spent from like December to May. Honestly, I spent from like October to May in my room working by myself, on myself alone. And then I had a summer job. And so it was the summer when I started interacting with people and when I had to take everything I learned and use it out in the world. And I think oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. The action steps. Well, this is more cars than I wanted. Um, I think it was around the time of Mercury retrograde in Cancer because I looked back at it. And there was a situation that went down. And for me, coming into my healed space, it made me feel things that I didn't want to feel and that I knew I shouldn't be feeling. And like, do we accept our feelings as our feelings? Yeah, sure. Like I honored those feelings. But I'm in the space of asking like this, like I've been this feeling that I'm feeling right now does not align with the space that I've been cultivating. And I know that I shouldn't be like thinking this way, but I can't help myself. I'm gonna be a little petty. I'm gonna be a little messy. And so I had my petty day, my messy day or two or three. And then eventually it just like it felt too out of alignment. And so I went back within myself and I was like, well, for myself personally, it was related to something that had happened to me in the past. And for me, it's almost always been this thing of like, if I had the opportunity to do it better, if I had the opportunity to say what I should have said back then or to do what I should have did back then, I'm gonna do it. And so in that moment, I realized that in some way, like that for me had became something that I established some kind of strength or power on because I was trying to turn a moment where I felt truly like helpless or where I felt the most victimized or the most like a victim. And I held on to that so that like I would never be in that position again. But by the time that came back around, I had already shifted enough out of that paradigm of thought that I was like, this, like, I don't need this anymore. Like, this, for me now, this isn't strength. I could see it for how toxic it was. And it's like my strength lies elsewhere now. I don't need to rely on this anymore. And so I had to like within myself, go back to the moment when it happened and I had to release myself from that. And I cried. I was like, whoa. Like I knew it was heavy, but I don't think I necessarily expected to cry. But I had to go back to that memory and just like release myself from that. And because I did that, and this is why I say that it seems that most of the time my Mercury, at least retrogrades, come in the lesson and then the test. So that was the lesson when I learned to release it. And then a few weeks later, I ended up coming home when I didn't expect to. And then the test came. But the test isn't necessarily a test. And it's when is a test not a test when you've already learned the lesson, right? Like if you can ace an exam, it's not really an exam. I mean, it is by name, but in practice, you already know everything. It doesn't hold the same weight as if you didn't know everything. And so I was able to show up in a conversation that I would not have been able to show up for had I not healed that weeks prior through that experience. And it was pretty wild. Is that feeling in here? I mean, I talked about it. Is that in here? Hold up. I feel like it's not entirely in this, but it's not too far from it either. Because that's that quiet surrender. Okay, here, come on. Don't start hurting now. Potential? This say potential? I think it is. Potential, yes. So this is the potential. Y'all hear her? I went to the store. It's 42.35. I went to the store and my total came up to 47.47. And I've been seeing 11.47 a lot for a minute. I'm like, oh, that's kind of like 11.11 because 47 isn't 11. But it was like, that'd be 47.47. I was like, oh. 23 is also a number I've been seeing a lot. I haven't looked it up at all. But I was like, my dad was watching sports. And I went in the kitchen. And first it was football. It was 32-32. Like both teams had a number 32. And they were literally right next to each other. And I was like, what? And then somebody was getting their free throws in. They was chilling on the free throw line, and it was 23 from both, like on both teams standing right next to each other, like 23-23. And I'm like, the number isn't exclusive to one team, but to see two people with the same number, like literally right next to each other, is interesting. 23 and 32 has kind of sort of been floating around for a minute, though, low key. But 23 lately is just like, okay, I don't know. Jordan, right? Okay, potential. I think I'm actually going to leave the potential blank. That feels right. I'm not going to pull the card for potential. But the bottom of the deck is the seeker. This is interesting. Oops, I'm covering it. There you go. The seeker. That's interesting because the seeker came out yesterday in the SKT on the North Node with the Ace of Swords. So let's get into this, shall we? I'm going to timestamp this right now. Let me edit this really quick. 44:44 on the clock. Into the cards around 45 minutes. I figured out how to do the timestamps in the videos. And I'm kind of into it. So I'm actually gonna do that. I'll say 00:00. You got to put an introduction on it to get it to timestamp the video. And like that's the only timestamp that I never put on. But without the double zeros, it doesn't recognize the formula. So I guess on my previous videos, all I got to do is go in and put 00, and then it'll automatically do it. I don't know. I'm kind of into it. I'm kind of into it. It's like 45:30 now, but that's fine. So this is the mapping the internal landscape. So we have one card for I already forgot what it was. There's one card for what to focus on. Three cards for the shadow, two cards for the action step. Okay. So maybe this is why I just started talking about that. Because what to focus on is power. And when it comes to power, I feel like it's like the source of your strength. Or what do you hold as strength? Where does your strength come from? What is it based and grounded and rooted in? What is the foundation of your power? Because the foundation speaks so much to not necessarily what something can become. It's like a foundation is interesting because you can build anything on top of a foundation. But if the foundation doesn't support it, it will crumble. So, what something can sustainably become is determined by the foundation, but it doesn't necessarily set anything in stone because everything above the surface can always be sort of remodeled, right? And as long as the foundation is solid, takes me back to the money pit. I saw that movie about a year ago. He's like, as long as the foundation is solid, the house can be rebuilt. And what it does is it's almost like it when the foundation is solid, it gives something infinite potential because it can become so many different things. Right? So, power. This is number 52 in the element of fire. I mean, that's not really surprising. And it's literally a wand. It's like Ace of Wands energy. Also, this is no, not this one. It feels like a King of Wands energy, but without the crown and without the snake, without the Ouroboros. So power. Let's see if I can read. You are more powerful than you could imagine. This card serves as a reminder that within you lies an infinite well of power that you can source whenever you choose. Throughout our lives, we have given our power to others or had it stripped away, but we always have the ability to call it back. Exercise. Oh, this one comes with an exercise. Okay. Sit or lay quietly for a moment. Focus on your breath. Begin to bring awareness to your solar plexus, upper abdomen. This is your power center. Imagine you are sitting inside it. How does it feel? Do you feel lots of energy here or does it feel stagnant? Imagine there is a glowing seed in the pit of your stomach. It is your power. Now imagine holding it and watching it grow. Feel what messages it has for you. What does it need from you? Continue to come back to nurture your power. And with that, I'm going to put the card down. Um, with that, again, it takes me back to the question of what the source of your power is. Because when your power is sourced in something that is less trauma based, I feel like it would feel a lot more tranquil. Like it would feel more like a campfire. Potentially, it could. It could feel more like a campfire. But if it's based in something traumatic, it may feel more like a house fire or a forest fire. Well, or like a sun. And so, in that is a little bit of a Leo energy, but it's a Leo energy in the sense of the question of like, what does it mean? It's Leo and Scorpio. There's also Scorpionic energy in it. Scorpio being the feminine aspect of Mars. So it's both of those. And it's just like it's a question of like if you know how powerful you are, then how do you show up in the world? Because it kind of it can be sometimes that the person who is the loudest is the most insecure. And they're loud because they have to show their power. They have to show that they're dominant. They have to show that they're the one in control. But when you know all of those things, there's not so much that you necessarily have to prove to anybody. And so what it does is it's an energy that hones it. So it's like it turns a fire into like a laser or something like that. Um, or it's like it turns fire into lightning because it's almost like a roaring fire is a little bit wasteful in some ways. But if you can focus all of that potential in one direction, it amplifies your power multiple times fold. And a lot of times I've seen the element of fire used in like anime or video games because that's the wheelhouse I'm coming from. Whenever it's a fire based power, to take it to the next step, it's almost always controlling it. And so instead of like this huge fire, you condense it down. But when it's condensed, it's extremely powerful. And so I guess I just say that to say like if you do that exercise or an exercise similar, or if you're following a guided exercise, if the guided exercise is like it should be this raging fire, maybe for some people, maybe not for others. And in that moment, in that space, it's important for you to know you and how your energy works, right? And it's not to say that like raging fire doesn't always have its benefits, because raging fire is capable of like reaching a greater audience, right? It spreads its impact, but concentrated, it's like it's more precise, and it's different for everybody, right? Some people sort of establish platforms, or some people enter many arenas, and so you find their light all over the place. Other people kind of sort of focus on one thing or the other thing. Again, it's on you. Whew. Let's see. I'm feeling good today. I'm feeling very low key. Oh, bear. Here's that bear. I knew bear was somewhere. I told y'all bear is back. The bear teaches us that understanding and working with our personal cycles amplifies our personal power. While it is widely accepted that bears hibernate, this is actually not the case. They go into a deep sleep called a torpor. Or a torpor? I've seen that word before. I've seen that word quite a few times. I've never known how to pronounce it. It's a word that I've always read and I've never heard. Here, Siri. Hey Siri, how do you pronounce Torpor?
Here's an answer from collinsdictionary.com. Torpor is the state of being completely inactive mentally or physically, for example, because of illness or laziness.
This ain't illness or laziness. Bears ain't sick or lazy. So it is torpor. It just sounds a little weird. It sounds weird. Torpor. So this is actually not the case. They go into a deep sleep called a torpor, which means that while their bodily functions slow, heart rate, digestion stops, they are still able to wake up if startled. They go into torpor to survive the winter when food is not readily available, and do so by eating more in the fall to store up body fat. As humans, we may not sleep for months, but we all have our personal cycles. It is important we know what to expect from ourselves. You may not feel very productive during the new moon or even an entire season, and that is okay. There will be other times where you have way more energy and space within you. Knowing these things about yourself is powerful as it helps you prepare and maximize your potential. I'll take that message. I don't know. I'll take that one with a grain of salt because I had my heavy work period and I'm relaxing right now. And sometimes I got to ask myself, like, where this pressure to do something is coming from, right? Maybe it's because there's some stuff coming out that I want, some video games. It doesn't necessarily. Also, that like I am really ready to like start building my life, and it's already happening energetically. But I think potentially, I think one of my pitfalls could be if I focus too much on doing the right thing to the point that I don't do anything. One moment. Who this? Who's that? Oh, that's my mom. Next is California Poppy. Poppy is a guide for us when we feel disconnected from our personal power during trying times. It teaches us how to ground into our true feelings and experiences, despite how painful they may be. And in the strengthening of our container, it amplifies our personal power. Poppies are what? Hold up, wait. Nyctinastic? Okay, poppies are nyctinastic, which means they close at night and open to the sun. This serves as a reminder for us to source light where we can, but also have boundaries in place that prevent our power from leaking. Call upon Poppy as a teacher for creating a container for your personal power and transmuting painful experiences into strength. There you go. Last is citrine. Citrine is all about getting things done. It strengthens our determination, will, and ability to bring our ambitions into physical form. Its fiery energy clears our power center for any feelings of unworthiness and encourages us to take action. Call upon citrine when you need help clearing any blockages around abundance, success, taking action, and personal power. That one line is interesting. It's all about getting things done. It strengthens our determination, will, and ability to bring our ambitions into physical form. I decided to turn my little journal. Here it is. So I don't know what I'm doing with this thing. For right now, it's going to be like kind of, sort of ish. One line poetry. Kind of, sort of is. Inspired by the line I wrote today. And today I wrote, a dream held within a fertile heart will always find its way to start. And it kind of sort of reminded me of that a little bit. Also, at some point, I realized it's weird, kind of weird. I realized that dreams are important to me. A few months ago now, quite a few months ago now. And they've always been important to me. And like, I remember when I was younger, it's like I want to be like financially solid enough to like make dreams come true. Like a financial dream, or to give someone a second chance. Because I don't know, life is hard and we all do our best. And we make choices and decisions based off of what we know at the time and what we have. And one choice or one decision or even a series of choices and decisions aren't necessarily indicative of how our life should be governed, especially if we are in some way subjected to the choices and decisions of other people. I don't know. It's complex, right? Everything is paradoxical. But citrine did talk about, or the poppy, one of them, talked about holding power in trying times. And that's very much so like when the world goes dark, shine brighter type of energy to me. Or that's what I took from it. No, with 3 cards for the shadow, maybe I shouldn't talk so much now. I feel like everything I had to say I said in that story about that experience I had in the past and how I, for a while, used that. But it's almost like since I was using that as a source of power, I was like re traumatizing myself in a way. And it's not that I was necessarily traumatized, but I mean, it was a not great interaction that affected a lot of things. So kind of was, in a way, or like keeping myself traumatized. And it's this energy of like, it also has an energy of us like re wounding ourselves or preventing wounds from healing in order to hold on to certain things. And again, it takes me back to like, I believe that there are some things that can heal a lot more completely than we give them credit for. Because I don't think we've necessarily, as a collective especially, been in an energy of actually healing our problems, our healing traumas. I mean, you go to therapy and it's all about a coping mechanism. You go to something else. It's like, how do you cope with it? How do you cope with it? And you have to cope before you can do anything else. But eventually, maybe we can get to the point where we actually. Who said that? I think it was Alex. Maybe it wasn't. I know Lucid Living TV. She said it too at one point. But it's this energy of like going back to those events, going back to those things that happened to us as the people that we are now. Because a lot of times when we go back to those places, we're instantly put back where we were. And that's like the true, like it triggers you back into that space. So it's like, however much regression takes place, and that's the space that you're acting from. And so if it happens in your childhood, then it's putting you back into a space where you really didn't have much of a knowing of how the world works, or you didn't have as wide of a breadth of life experiences or difficulties or setbacks or even like joys to know that like this one thing isn't going to be necessarily like the worst thing that happens to you. Are there going to be so many things later that really put this into context? And while it is so much bigger than you should have to deal with right now, it's like if you can take who you are now back then, hopefully, and not like it's a very general statement. There are so many degrees of trauma. Like, I'm not like if literally like your whole family, I'm not even going to go into how dark it could be, right? It's obvious, not obviously, but it's not necessarily a cover all statement, but maybe potentially it could still help, especially if you've already done some growing and healing and maturing in that area. Then, like, take who you are now back there and look at it. And maybe that's something you do with a therapist. Maybe that's something you do with a licensed professional or with a person that can sort of be with you through that. But it's like, yeah. So, I went to therapy did a few sessions when I was like real bad. And he said, like, the things that you decided when you're younger, like, you don't have to, like, honor those anymore. Or, like, like you're older now. You've lived more life. You have more experiences. You know more. And you, in some ways, know better. And so the things that you decided or how it looked when you were young, like, now you know that that's no longer the case. And, like, just him saying that, it, like, released something in me. Because maybe there was some part of me that thought that like, because again it's like when we're sort of traumatized by certain things, we get stunted in that area, It's like when it comes to that, we don't really grow past that because anytime we encounter something in that area, we get triggered back to the pain, which is why, like, it can be this thing where it's like, when times are good and things are great, you don't necessarily want to go back into the dark stuff, but it's more effective, I would think, to do it from a space where you have the emotional bandwidth and capacity to do it rather than when you're triggered and you can't go back there at all. Or like when you're in there, you're in it. And again, it's this energy of like coming out of it or not being so deep in it and being able to see things now that you couldn't see before. Because when you're in a situation like that, you get tunnel vision. Like your vision narrows and you're trying to hone in on the threat. And so everything outside of that kind of sort of fades away, type of energy. Whew. Goodness. So for shadow, well, first card we have is death, and then connect to heart, and then dare to dream. Ooh, ooh, ooh. This is some gorgeous energy. I don't know why it's all in shadow though. First is death, and then connect to heart, and then dare to dream. Okay. This is an energy that you wouldn't think is in the shadow, but it can be. It's almost something that like you have to put into shadow. I don't think shadow energy naturally picks things like this up. And the best I can do is use my own personal experiences when it comes to this. Because it can be one of those things that like until you start to do it within yourself, then it can seem almost impossible. And I think sometimes it feels impossible just because like it is so big. And again, like when you get triggered, like when you get traumatized in a certain area and anything that happens in that area triggers you, it's like it continuously sets you back. So it's harder to like progress beyond that point. And so it stunts you in that way. And since you're stunted in that way, it's like it creates blockages in all kinds of areas of life. You get like really, really sensitive to things to the point where um it's just like when you're too sensitive, when something is too raw, then you can't really engage it or interact with it, right? It's not necessarily sensitive in a bad way, but this is overly sensitive to the point where it keeps you from performing your normal duties and functions in life. But you sort of cater your life around that sensitivity. And so you learn a new normal. And in learning that new normal, not having that sensitivity and doing all of those other things, it seems like an impossibility. But it's not impossible. Also, I bought another 40 pack of waters today. I don't know when I'm gonna get a filter or what filter I'm gonna get, but this will be the last. This will be the last 40 pack I buy because I'm tired of throwing plastic in the garbage. We don't recycle here because illegal dumping, and they took the recycling facility away. I just had to mention that. Um, but it was about last year, almost a year ago, when I went through a little bit of a shadow evolution myself, and like when it was when everything was like there have been a few moments where it feels like things kind of sort of happen on autopilot. And by that I mean it's like there are sometimes in some moments where it seems that like so much stuff, like a situation is built up so much that it naturally topples because it's too big, it's too heavy. And that it's kind of an autopilot energy because it's like by that point nothing else would happen. But then you go back or you think on it and it's like so much misunderstanding or like elevated emotion or things taken out of context. For me, sometimes it's like, why am I even like feeling like this? Like, why was I even feeling like that? Because in the moment, it's a big deal. But anyway, it was this, it was a space where after all of the healing that I did, the parts of me that want to go back to the old life, or the parts of me that want to continue to live a life full of regrets, are very, very, very few to zero. I'll say very, very, very few to zero. Because even if I get a little nervous, even if I get a little anxious, I'm not going back. So that's that's a non-option. Um, and it was almost like somewhere within me, the part of me that was the most afraid or skeptical, or the part of me that clung to the darkness the most, was able to see light. And I guess there are really some forces out there that are that powerful. But it was able to see light. And so when it came time to like reorganize and recenter and reground myself, there was a part of me that was hurt. And in that hurt space, I think a lot of times we can sort of grasp at things to justify whatever no longer is. But none of it really, like, none of it was true. And for me, that was the first time I had experienced that. And I'm weird, so sometimes I talk to myself internally. And so I'm like looking for my shadow aspect. And I'm like, shadow aspect, like, I'm hurt and I'm upset and I want to feel angry. Help me. Give me something to work with here. My shadow aspect was like, no, like, I don't have anything either. If you want to be hurt, if you want to be upset, if you want to be angry, if you want to turn bitter and sour and cold, that's on you. Because I'm still chilling in the space of the potential for what I now see, what you gave me permission to sort of be in on. Because there were times and moments when it was like every concern just kind of sort of went out the window. And it was like, I don't know, I trust this more than I fear anything. And something about this just, it puts me in the space of knowing that everything would work out and that there's nothing I have to fear or worry or be afraid of. Even if even if logically there are plenty of things that I can foresee, right? But spirit was just like, or my spirit was just like, no, it'll all be fine. And so of course my brain was like, oh, it'll all be fine. And my heart was like, oh, it'll be more than fine. And so my shadow was like, yeah, like, I want that. And so I guess also within me, it sort of got to that point where when your ego is aligned in a chariot like fashion, or when your shadow, which holds, like, let's say certain desires, or let's say the shadow holds wants and the light holds needs, right? And so when you begin to want the things that you need, it reduces a lot of the stress and the burdens in life, because now the things that you need to do are less of a, like, drag your feet, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to do this. It becomes, oh my, like, I want to do this so I can be better off. um but I don't know, it was just a part of the conversation in a way that it's never been before, because for the first time in that space, or in any space really, it wasn't my shadow trying to tell me how everything was going to fall apart, or how I wasn't going to get it. And like at this time, I still didn't even know I had cataracts. So I didn't even know that my vision would improve to the degree that it did. But my vision was one of the things for so long that was like, I don't want to get with anybody while my eyes are like this, because like I don't want anyone to have to take care of me. And if I really cared for somebody, then I wouldn't force them to be with me or stay with me in a space where I may feel a little limited. Like that would be cruel to do to someone that I supposedly love. That's how I used to talk to myself. So your boy was in it deep, deep. And I remember my good Torian friend, when I met him, he was like, like that's not your decision to make. Like if someone loves you, then it's their decision on whether or not they're going to be in your life and whether or not they're going to see you through that. And if they love you, they will. And I was like, it is my decision if I don't let nobody in, because that's me. um, and then you live life and you find out, right? Um, and I was like mega triggered. I was mega triggered, and I started crying and everything, because it was like, if I really cared about somebody, I wouldn't force them to live this limited life with me. I don't want anyone to be limited in any way. And I'm not the type of person that will hold on to people. Be I'm not the type of person that'll hold people in spaces and places that they don't want to be, or that's not good for them. Because I want everyone to live a life full of like happiness and joy and things like that, right? And so like if we're not happy together, then like I'd rather you go and be happy. And I'd rather me be happy too. Well, at that point, by this point, I was okay with happiness. But I would never force somebody to like stay in my life. Like if you're leaving, if you're gone, then bye bye. Because I wouldn't want anyone to do that to me, and I wouldn't allow anyone to do that to me either. Honestly, I'd be like, yeah, I'm done with this. Bye. And they're like, wait, what? We're supposed to be friends. We're supposed to be whatever. It's like we ain't friends if you treat me the way you treat me. Like, hello? No, I pass. I'm good. I treat myself better than this. Not having anybody is better than being treated like this. I'm not the type of person that'll cling to somebody because I'm lonely. I'll be lonely and alone. I'd rather be lonely and alone than be lonely and be with somebody else. Because I feel like to be lonely and be with somebody else just amplifies the loneliness because you got a body right there. It's like when you're eating, but you don't get full. When you're eating, but you're still starving to death. And then it becomes almost a little bit of a frustration at like, I shouldn't be feeling this if I'm doing what I'm doing to not feel this way. So why do I still feel this way when I'm doing what I'm doing? Anyway, it completely changed the dynamic that I have with my shadow. And more so than changing the dynamic, I think for a while, honestly, it happened way before that happened. It happened long before that. I just didn't know it until that. I didn't know it as profoundly until that moment happened when my shadow refused to play its typical shadow games. Um, because I remember there was one friend I had. He was like, "Who are you?" He was like, "You don't do this. Like, you're not like this." He was like, "I've never heard you apologize." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I apologize all the time. I apologize when an apology is warranted." That friend, I don't want to say that friend didn't deserve any apologies, but like I never did anything with that friend that warranted an apology. Like if you want me to apologize for not buying into your line of thinking because you think you know everything, like no. Or if you want me to apologize for having my own thoughts and opinions, no. Like no. Go find you a sheep. Go find you somebody who will agree with you in every way. That's not me. If it don't make sense to me, it don't make sense to me. Anyway, back into the shadow, right? What am I doing? I don't know. I'll just go with it. First card is Death, number 93, Ether. Great. Ether. Oh, this one is short. Okay. Did I tell y'all what's at the? Yeah, the secret is at the bottom of the deck. Okay. Death. There you go. This card signals that an ending, change, or metaphorical death is currently happening or on the horizon. It may feel like the universe is stripping things away from you. You may feel shaken, raw, and uncertain. This is okay. This is a period of this period is a preparation for what is to come. New adventure and abundance is making its way to you and it needs space. Sometimes we can get too focused on the things we need to get rid of or the things that need to die that we are not inviting new things into our life. When we bring in more life, it is easier to allow things to die. If you find yourself in a period of death, try to incorporate some new things you can enjoy to create balance. I'm actually going to go against the book on this one. I'm going to say if you find yourself in a place of death, try to hold that space open for whatever that space is being prepared for. Sometimes we lose things and we try to immediately pick something else back up, but in the immediate picking up of something else, we miss the thing that was meant for us. The reason why this death was happening in the first place. And what we can do is we create more things that need to die, or we go after more things that need to die. It's a very 7 8 7 8 7 8 7 8 of cups energy that never reaches the 9 and finds release at the 10. Because instead of allowing that space, we go and we seek another thing that we're just going to have to walk away from again. Now, if it's something that feels, see, that's the thing about alignment, though. Like, so many things can align in so many different ways. There's a difference between alignment and comfort. Sometimes the things that most naturally align push you the furthest outside of your comfort zone. And again, because it's preparing you for what's coming after, or it's preparing you to receive in some way, something that you can't receive if you have too much stuff going on. And so if you need to pause and take a step back, pause and take a step back, collect yourself, do what you need to do for you, and don't feel bad about it. Anything and anyone that is going to come into that space should be understanding. And I think that's one of the blessings of growing. This thing been out for a minute. I don't know why all of a sudden this smoke want to try to close my throat. This is something that my generation, I think, experiences more of, or it's more comfortable with it. That feeling of like sometimes you just gotta like take a step back from everybody and just focus on you. And it's not personal. And because it's, and I don't know, I feel like we're just more understanding of that. And so when people come back into our lives, like we don't make a big deal out of it. It's like, hey, sorry, I disappeared for a minute. I just needed some me time. I needed some space. I needed to clear my head. It's like, okay, I get it. Like, I hope everything's better. Like, what's that? Like, you want to do something? Because I remember I was talking to my mom and she said something. And I was like, no, like sometimes you just need space. And she was like, yeah, but they may not be there when you come back. And I'm like, well, at least my friends, we know how it is. And so we don't make each other feel bad when we need space. Because again, sometimes people just need space. I've been in that place and position. I mean, I'm also the type of person that can't really hang out with the same person too much, or everything that they do starts to irritate me. Sometimes it's just like they'll breathe and I'll be irritated. I'm like, I need my space. I need space. Also, that could have been a result of the me who didn't want to get too close to people. And so maybe I would find things in some subconscious and unconscious way to be upset about or to get annoyed at. It hasn't necessarily been the case lately. There have always been, well, not always. There's like very, 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 very few people that I can constantly be around and never get like irritated at anything. One of them was my best friend, and I went to spend a week with her. And she's a Sagittarius. I'm a Pisces, so we get along. But when I started to get a little too extra, she was like, "Calm." She'd be like, "Calm down." She'd be like, "Stop." I'm like, "Okay." And she posted something on Facebook. I saw the memory within the past 6 months. It wasn't super recently, but she was like, "I don't like." She was like, "For people as sensitive as you, like, I don't understand how we're as good as of friends as we are because I'm like pretty blunt and like I don't know why you like me." And then out of that whole, and my reply was like, "Oh, so you think I'm sensitive?" And I legitimately felt that. Like I didn't even read anything else she said. I was like, "Oh, so you calling me sensitive? All right, I see what's going on here." Um, but I went to spend a week with her one time, and I was really worried. I was like, I don't know, like, because I stayed at her place. I was like, I don't know if like we gonna like gel or whatever, or if we're gonna like break down. But we gelled the whole time. She's someone I could probably spend like every day with and never get anything. Like frustrated, annoyed, but also like in our relationship, we were so different from each other. But for some reason, maybe it was that Jupiter connection. Maybe our souls just gel together or something. I don't know. But we just came into an understanding of each other, right? Because like there have been other people that will like it'll irritate me if I get emotional and they're not honoring my emotions and my feelings. And now look at me. And she just like she wasn't super emotional. I remember one day she was like she said like I love you or she gave me a hug or she was just like thank you for everything you do and I was like whoa what's happening are you okay and she was like how come every time I tell somebody I care for them people act like something is wrong with me or people ask me if I'm okay like am I not allowed to love the people that I love and I'm like, yeah, you are, but you just don't really express it that much. I literally remember the first day she hugged me. I was like, I didn't say anything, but in my mind, it was a big deal. I was like, oh my gosh, she just hugged me. Um, why am I talking about her? Why am I talking about that? I don't know. Why am I talking about this? I feel like it related to my shadow in some way. Um, I just brought her up because she's like literally one of the maybe three people that I've ever met that I could spend extended periods of time with and not get like annoyed. Um, and honestly, within the past few years, I don't think it's been happening as much. Again, it's probably in part due to the whole thing I had mentally of like, I don't want to get too close to people and I want to be okay if anyone walks out of my life. And so there was always a wall up, no matter how like deeply connected I was with somebody. And so maybe when it encroached upon that, then like my shadow would just like kind of sort of tendril out a little bit and like slap it, like go away, get annoyed because they're breathing. I was like, oh, I don't know. I had a lot of stuff. It took a lot to get me where I am today. It took a lot. Um, but back to death. That was all that was in here. That was the one thing I was going to add. Um, is that sometimes like it can be good for us to or we can feel better by bringing new things in as we're losing some things but I would say be mindful that you're not bringing in more of what it is that you're sort of getting rid of or not getting rid of but more that than you're cleaning out because and again with the next card being connect to heart after this death, it does feel like if you don't give it the space and the time it needs, then you're probably going to go after more or less whatever it is that is leaving right now. And in this space, it's a space for you to get more connected to your own heart. It's a space for you to learn your heart. I don't think this shadow is much of a shadow. I think this is a shadow that is seeking some kind of retribution is the word that pops into my mind, but it's not retribution in a vengeancey type of way. It's it's a healing shadow. It's a lightning shadow. It's a shadow that it's wanting to come into a space where it collaborates with the light. And it puts you in a chariot energy. When they're both on the same page, then you can move forward because you don't have something in the back of your mind constantly trying to tear you away from what it is that you're subconsciously afraid of or that you're consciously afraid of, but that's infecting you in unconscious and subconscious ways. Right? It's not like whenever I was annoyed with somebody, I was like, ugh, like this is me responding. Like this is a manifestation of my fear of getting close to people because every time I get close to somebody, they leave me. And that's why I'm feeling irritated and frustrated when they're doing something as simple as breathe. It was just like, oh my gosh, like I gotta get away. I need to go to my room and recharge my battery. Too much time, not enough space. But again, like it literally goes back to what I was talking about with power before I even started. When the source of your power changes, when the foundation changes, it changes everything. And so I guess I'm not surprised that the shadow is looking pretty good. It's death and to connect to your heart and to dare to dream. This title this teaching your shadow to dream. Oh, I'm titling it right now. One moment. I love that I can edit this one on live. Teaching your shadow to dream. But a lot of this, it's rooted in the heart. So, I mean, that's where you start. Pull it up at the root. So this is water. I know it's the element of water. We'll just peruse through water. West, autumn, intuition, the subconscious, mystery, receptive, and fluidity. The surrender, play, self love, connect to heart. Here it is. Aw, 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 aw. It's cute. This card asks you to connect to the heart space. This is a place of bravery, integration, vulnerability, and compassion. This may mean pushing past any fear you may have and opening up to true connection. This may mean finding forgiveness or empathy. This may mean softening. Most of us have layers of defense mechanisms around our heart that prevent us from being present, from receiving love, from giving love. This card asks you to examine what armor you can't let go of and where you can nurture yourself in this space. We can call upon dog as a teacher of vulnerability and unconditional love. When dogs are bonding to their human, it is typically a rather quick process. Even those that have significant trauma can sense when they are safe and will open up to their companions. Small acts like rolling onto their back to expose their belly is a major act of trust as they are exposing their most vulnerable parts to you. In general, dogs move through life constantly looking for love and connection. They are an ally to call upon when you have had painful experiences that have closed you off to life and other people. Dog will teach you how to open up and allow love in when you are overwhelmed with fear. Hawthorn has incredibly potent medicine for the heart. It is used to support chest pain, irregular heartbeat, congestive heart failure, blood pressure, hardening of arteries, and cholesterol. It supports us in the same way energetically. For times when our heart has hardened or we have become cynical, Hawthorn supports us as we soften and open up to life and love after heartbreak. It is also supportive for us if we need a gentle opening to feelings we have locked away and repressed. Rose quartz is the ultimate heartstone. It supports us in love for ourselves, love for others, for life, family, friends, our work, our community, our environment, etc. If we have felt cold and shut down, rose quartz can activate our heart and awaken it to all that there is to love in our life. If we have anger and resentment, rose quartz can gently wash it away. Call them rose quartz if you need a guide as you do any heart work. I'm loving this. And that's what this death energy is emphasizing, I believe. And I can hear my mom. She's so loud. I can't think. I think when you're in a space like this, there's a lot of questions of like, how do I heal my heart? How do I do this? How do I do that? In my experience, you do what you can on yourself, and the rest you put into practice in life. I think healing is so much, it's like physical rehab, right? Physical rehabilitation, that's what it is, right? It's like to learn to walk, like you just walk. You just move. Even when it's extremely excruciating and painful, you do it. Like that's how you heal it. With the muscle, you have to build it up, you have to work it out. If it atrophies or if it's never been used in the first place, you're not going to be able to, like, you ain't going to be Superman on day one. And the heart is also a muscle, both physically and energetically. And it's also something that can atrophy when you don't use it. And with anything, I believe when it comes to healing, it's about practice, it's about showing up, it's about making those courageous and bold choices in the moment as best you can. And are you going to have moments where you like mess up, mess up? I'm trying to air quote, mess up. Sure, but that's also a part of the process, right? You keep doing it until it becomes like second nature. You keep doing it until it's strong enough where it's like you can live your everyday, day to day life and not be triggered as heavily because it's as you work it out, it reduces that atrophying effect. And it's not about having everything figured out before you even begin. It's about starting and being mindful along the way. And when you're in a space where communication is there and you can be open and honest, it makes the process easier in the way that it doesn't put like additional shame or blame or anything like that on you. And it's for you to be in a space where you don't take on any more yourself. Like it's a process, and everyone knows it's a process, and spirit knows that it's a process. And so in that way it is patient, but also it's like it isn't something that's necessarily going to get easier if you don't do anything. It gets easier the more you work it out. And then last but not least, never least, is dare to dream. After you've connected to your heart, listen to your heart. People, what is it? Listen to your heart. Shout out to my night core buddy, the person who got me into night core. Oh, page 42. It's an air. Hey, look, there's Shadow. Dare to dream. No dream is too big for you. This card is an invitation to step wildly into your dreams, to visit them often, to ask them what they need from you. Despite what your current circumstances are, and no matter how far away you feel from your dreams, Spirit is telling you otherwise. We often neglect our dreams because we do not know how to attain them. But the process of going after them is a collaboration with the universe. If you show up for them, they will show up for you too. Eagle's sight is by far the strongest of its senses. In fact, it has the best sight in all the animal kingdom. It is said to be able to spot a rabbit from over a mile away. In the aspect of our personal dreams, the eagle can be an ally for visualizing that which feels far away. A huge part of attaining what we desire is the ability to visualize it. Continue to use your imagination while showing up for what is right in front of you, even if you can't see how they connect. Like many powerful and magical plants, buckthorn is on the invasive species list. Its resistance to being eradicated is one of the properties we can call upon. If we are to go after our dreams, we will need resilience. Things may try to derail you, and you may even reach a moment where you think, am I not supposed to do this? But keep going, stand your ground. Buckthorn is extremely helpful when dealing with external influences that may be discouraging. That's that new Five of Swords energy I've been feeling for a minute. Ruby is one of the four precious gemstones and has been considered highly valuable throughout all of human history. It is also an incredibly hard stone, second only to diamond. I didn't know that. Ruby can serve as an ally when we are chasing our dreams, as it encourages us to cultivate the durability required to succeed. It being considered a precious stone is significant, as things of value do not always come easily. We must persevere. Where buckthorn is helpful in dealing with external influences, ruby supports the internal. Call on it when you feel small, when your self talk is not so great, and when limiting beliefs are interrupting your progress. So, I mean, like all of this coming out in the shadow energy, this is gorgeous. This is a healing energy. This is, honestly, it's addressing all the ways that we stand in our own way and all of the interference that we cause when we come in, all the interference we cause when we're manifesting something from spirit, right? I feel like doing like a foot soaking meditation and everything. I feel like filming a weekly release video. I haven't done that in a minute. I haven't done a foot soaking meditation in a minute. I haven't meditated. Well, I meditated recently, but before that, it was a minute. All these minutes really add up. So the action steps are the wildling and the weaver. The wildling and the weaver. Two ether cards, ether aspected cards. And the seeker is on the bottom of the deck. I just got the wildling. It has this two of swords energy that I like. Not that I like it, but there's also the thorns on this two of swords energy. Honestly, the thorns on this two of swords energy, it feels like there's a pull now for um it's like the ways in which you would block and stagnate yourself, it's trying to like stop you from doing that. So maybe you don't two of swords as easily now as you did in the past. Maybe there's something within you now that will speak against all the limiting beliefs and all of the things that will find you when you're trying to convince yourself out of something that is for you to do. When you're trying to shrink away, it's something that will try to remind you of how tall you are or how big you can be. And another thing that was interesting for me in that moment, it was a separation of like my shadow from me. And the sense that's like, it's like inside out, right? How Riley has all of those emotions. And the emotions are the ones kind of sort of driving everything. But Riley is still Riley. And so it's this energy of like we're greater or more than the aspects that make us up. And in Inside Out, it was like they controlled more of her reactions to things kind of sort of going on. or they influenced her reactions to things going on. It wasn't necessarily like, okay, we're going to wake up. Okay, we're going to walk over there. Now we're going to do this. Now we're going to do that. So there is still a self that's separate from all of the aspects of you. And that's why I was like, wait, you're my shadow. So if I'm feeling like this, or if I want to feel like this, then like, that's you. And my shadow was like, no, that's you. And it was like, if you want to continue down this path, it's going to be you. Because my side is already set on the light. I've already seen it. I've seen it now. Thank you. You've helped me see it now. So now if you want to be down in the muck and the mire, stuck, that's you. And don't try to blame it on me. I was like, oof, okay. But I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, it was productive because now there are no parts of me that wish to stay stuck. And also because of those parts, I only find love in certain situations. And it's like, oh, this is new. This is interesting. So the potential, action steps, right? There is no potential. Action steps is how we need to show up for this internal work. So how we need to show up is the wildling and the weaver. The weaver is the one that decides. The wildling is the one that marches to the beat of its own drum, basically. Right? Well, actually, read it. Let's see. Let's see. Pulling the wildling card indicates a time to connect to the most primal part of yourself. This may mean you need to detach a bit from people around you so you can hear the whispers of your deepest knowing without the influence of others. I talked about that. The wildling is raw, empowered, and independent. Many people are intimidated by them because they need little from others and prioritize radical freedom, which can be unsettling as most of society operates within unspoken expectations and contracts. The wildling burns the contract and heads into the woods. Wildling comes to us as an ally when we need to break free of the systems that limit us. The wildling within us remembers a time where we lived with the land, when we walked barefoot, when our lives were in alignment with the natural world. Wildling is a call for remembrance. A good way to invoke wildling is to dive deeper into our body and hear what it needs from us on our most primal level. A balanced wildling prioritizes freedom but remains grounded. They possess an instinct that may not make sense to others but never leads them astray. They are present to their own emotions and needs and will spend time on their personal developments. An unbalanced wildling is in a state of perpetual chaos. They are avoidant and often use the external for a band aid of their internal dis-ease, which often means they are constantly moving on to the next thing. What they move on to never ends up being what they hoped for. That constantly moving on to the next thing is what I would caution against when I read the death card. That's why I said it, because the wildling is right here. See, that's why some you gotta have your own whatever. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But you do. You do. You gotta have your own. Be tapped into your own guidance, into your own compass, because for you it may be different. Hold up. Hold up. There's Underworld. Well, I was trying to find the wildling or find the Weaver without looking it up. The page. I mean, it's only a certain number of pages in here. Hello. They got a revolutionary card. Oh snap! The. Okay. Oh wait. Here's the Explorer. Wait. The Weaver is the one who creates their own fate. It reminds me of Merida. What did she say? If you could, would you change your fate or something? I forget what she said. 117. This is page 117. Is it? It's literally right before the wildling. It's literally right there. I saw the warrior and everything. I knew it was okay. Anyway, here is the weaver. Here's the snake biting its own tail. So it's on a sword here. And I was like, there's a card in the tarot deck that has like a wand. It was the King of Wands, the Sovereign of Wands, without the crown and without that snake. Well, here's the snake. The snake is known a sword. Speaking of Michael giving us our sword, right? Michael, like, you got this. You don't need me. You got this. The Weaver is a master of their destiny. This deck is named the Threads of Fate because each one of us has thousands of threads that, when combined, weave the fabric of our life. We can braid, nurture, or sever any strand at any time, and in doing so, we are the weaver. This card urges you to take inventory of all the threads active within your life at the moment. What needs to happen moving forward? Which ones need to grow stronger? Which ones need to be cut? What actions can you take to tend to the threads of fate, to the threads of your fate? There's a lot of like check in with yourself, ask yourself, what do you need type of energy here. And then the seeker at the bottom of the deck, I'm gonna read it again for y'all. I'm gonna read it for you. Under the seeker is reflect. Love it. Here's the seeker. It reminds me of the five of coins, the five of pentacles in the tarot deck. But where the five of pentacles was about releasing all of this stuff, it's like the seeker's hands are open to receive. Oh, almost read the wrong card. The seeker indicates a need for energy, movement, vitality, and excitement. The seeker is childlike at heart and has faith that at its core, the world is a beautiful place. As we grow older, it is easy to lose touch with our innocence and sense of wonder. We have responsibilities, stressful home and work environments, external pressures, physical sensitivities, and dis-ease. There's that word again. In the end, we get locked into a survival mentality and we don't know how to break free. The seeker's message is one of reclamation. It is not so much about ridding yourself of the stress, but remembering your essence. Slowly nurture your sense of wonder to all that is balanced, to all that is around you. You may feel silly at first and keep working. You may feel silly at first, but keep working on it to balance out the negative. Replace statements of what if everything goes wrong with what if everything is exactly as it should be. Balanced seeker energy is more one of empowerment, curiosity, and feeling confident to navigate both the external and internal worlds. If seeker is out of balance, you may be a bit untethered. You may be pushing yourself on to the next thing, thinking that may be your cure. An unbalanced seeker energy may also give their power away to others. As seekers, we must remember that we are gathering experiences and wisdom for growth, not because we believe it is a prescription to fix our perceived issues. I love that because one of these cards, it had to be Dare to Dream, was talking about the bullthorn or whatever thorn was for the external, the ruby was for the internal. The seeker was talking about balance. It also mentioned power. I feel like the seeker just quite nicely and succinctly sum all of this up. And I think it also called back to that wildling energy in some way too. So that's the internal landscape. In the internal landscape, there's this balancing and rebalancing of shadow and light energies. And it's also a recharacterization, I think, of the shadow and what the shadow could be, rather than it being its default sort of like bad, negative sort of state. Because there's good in anything and there's bad in anything. It's how we use it, how we approach it. And that feels good. That feels good. Oh, goodness. What is Pisces season? Because I did read what I read yesterday. And it goes back to the energy of that Archangel Commander. And with the Weaver coming out as the action step, we can't, when we depend on anyone or anything to do certain things for us, it sort of automatically takes us out of our power. And but there is obviously a difference between like depending on things from people that they can provide us with and depending on things from people that they can't. And people, even spirit, again, with that like Michael energy or with the version of Michael energy I'm feeling, it's more so about putting you in a place of power in your own life rather than you continuously leaning upon spirit for, and it's not even for support, it's like leaning upon spirit to do everything for you. Like spirit it is there to support, it will always be there to support, but we have free will and we have choice. And it's like, we go to spirit and then we pick and choose what we want to sort of take on. And then we'll be like, oh, where is spirit? What is spirit doing? I feel like I've been left out and betrayed and whatever. When in reality, it's like choices are decisions that you're making or not making. Spirit can't force anything on you. And there is also a time to learn, unfortunately. So are there going to be difficulties and setbacks? Sometimes, yes. Especially if that's what we need to grow. I remember when I was younger, my mom was like, what did she say? She was like, I really hope you learn to listen. I hope you don't make your life any harder than it has to be. And eventually I learned to listen. And my life wasn't as hard. I would get myself into trouble all the time. And she was like, you can't afford to be doing this. Not looking like how you look. It doesn't end well for you. So spirit took my little fire away. And then I was just a shell of who I used to be for a long time. It's fine. Okay, final message. Last card. Hit the table, not the flow. Please don't hit the flow. Please don't hit the flow. I already got one deck that's missing cards. There we go. Thank you. Ooh, it's two of them. Bottom of the deck is death. I just read that. Not going to read it again. Death. The cards that came out are manifest and movement. This is about it's about putting energy behind the energy, or putting action behind the energy. Also, movement and manifest, it's an energy that's like it builds up momentum. There's momentum in this. And with that building momentum, just like how I said, it was like sometimes it feels like, or it felt like things were on autopilot, like a situation would build up and build up and build up. And if there wasn't like proper communication, then like so many assumptions and your mind running wild and just things that you're not talking about to get a clear understanding of, especially when you're dealing with, when you're in a space of revision and when you're in a space of rewriting, it's easy to automatically assume that things are the way they are because of how they used to be. And without that element of proper communication, it's like that's all you have to build off of. And so, again, things just naturally topple over because they get too heavy. This is a natural energy, but instead of like things getting too heavy, they get too light. And once something gets light enough, it's less dense than air and it just begins to fly off. Right? So it's a lightning energy here where it was a birding energy on the other side. And I guess death is the transformation in this. Instead of us building up these monsters in our minds, it's putting that to good use. It's like utopia. UTOPIA. I looked at UIO and P. I was like, oh, utopia. I don't know. It was fruition before. It's utopia now. Utopia is actually a card in the Magical Dimensions Oracle cards and activators, and it looks like utopia is the final destination of the emotional freedom card. And I think emotional freedom is either 27 or 29. I think it's 29. Emotional freedom has been a theme today. Utopia is the space that we're reaching. And it's not necessarily like utopian utopia. It's just a space where it's like a feeling of knowing that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And there's less and less and less of us that's fighting it, which is more and more and more of us that's accepting it. The shadow is in a space and in a place now where it wants to be healed and it wants to be rebranded and it wants to be let in. I think the shadow is what the shadow is because for so many of us for so long, it's like we try to keep that part of us away and we try to keep that part of us separate and isolated and repressed. And so whenever we try to go for anything bigger and better, then of course it's going to be like, hey, like, what about me? Hello, like, I'm back here. Like, did you forget about me? Like, oh, like, you thought you were going to be happy, girl? Well, knock, knock. Here's your depression. Here's your anxiety. Like, did you think that, like, what? Like, hello, did you forget? Did you forget? And it's like, no, we didn't forget. Like, come in. Let's have a talk. If you want to come to these parties, you need to know how to act. No, it ain't necessary. Whatever it sound like for you, that's what it sound like for you. But when those parts of us are accepted and loved, and when we can do that for ourselves more than anything, and sometimes it does start with other people doing it before we give ourselves permission to also do it, especially depending on what your history with people and that particular shadow is, or that particular aspect of your shadow is. It's like once you begin to incorporate that, and once you stop repressing and isolating, and once you start reducing the burden of your shadow, because your shadow has to carry everything that you're not going to carry, everything that you'd rather just forget or pretend like it doesn't exist, it gets delegated to the shadow and relegated to the shadow. But when you make those things light, it doesn't cause as much trouble. It's like you realize that it actually wants to work with you. It's like that kid who's acting out for attention. Adults act out for attention, so it's that person who does it. And it's almost like they have to get so much attention before they come to a place to be able to realize that, like, there's a difference between good attention and bad attention. And if you want attention, just start a conversation, right? Like, you don't have to do the things that you used to do to get attention. But that's like, this is that chariot energy. Movement and manifestation, this is chariot energy. But you're the chariots here. And when your shadow is aligned with the light, with your light, when your subconscious is aligned with your conscious, it really puts you in a space of driving. And then that's when you really get to start experiencing choice and what choice is. And sometimes it's just like, it can be a little annoying sometimes. At the top of the deck was surrender. So I was curious. I feel like surrender, it carries that energy of ease. It's like surrender on all sides. You surrender, the shadow surrenders, your light always surrenders. Not always. Um, but yeah, I feel like that's a full circle moment back to this. Just, it feel like if I had to give this feeling a word, it'd be uh like that sigh after like a long day of work, or after you've been carrying something for a while and you drop it. Just that, the sound, the feeling is the body releasing tension. And that's the kind of that you, as soon as you hit the bed, you go immediately to sleep. Um, but that's what I got today. I don't know when this is coming in because it seems like sometimes I'd be a little bit ahead of the game. Not ahead of the game, but I can be. I feel like sometimes I read shifts and changes in energy. And depending on how long it takes for us to get to the point where we allow for that energy to be shifted or changed or whatever, is when we sort of begin to experience it. Maybe, I don't know. Just take them as they resonate. Journey guides or journey aids. So whenever you reach that part of your journey and you're ready to move on to the next, maybe it'll start to resonate a little bit more. I mean, especially for this. Like, if you're not in the space of shadow healing, then this probably maybe don't resonate for you. But more than shadow healing, I think the biggest question or the biggest sort of indicator maybe could be like when you ask yourself, what is the basis of your strength? And if your strength is rooted in a trauma, then ask yourself if you're willing to let that go. If the answer is no, like, I know I'm not going to let that go because I'm never going to allow this to happen to me again. And that was the worst thing that ever happened to me, and blah, 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 blah. Maybe there's still a little bit of time left. Because at that point, you're depending on your shadow basically to keep you moving, to animate your body. And it isn't until you release the burden on your shadow to be your strength, to drive you and to move you forward, to motivate you whenever you're encountering some kind of newness or difficulty, then it's going to keep doing what it's doing. It isn't until you switch gears that like your shadow is finally able to sort of like really begin to let stuff go and really begin to get lighter and really begin to heal and begin to learn to cooperate with your light, because light is an element that always surrenders. Always. It's an element of surrendering. Darkness is an element of conquering. And so I feel like the light is inherently more powerful. But again, it's something that we have to seek. So that's the balance on that. That's what keeps it fair. We have to choose it. Darkness just kind of sort of exists wherever there isn't light, right? Like you don't need electricity or power or energy to make something dark. You just take all of that. You just don't provide it any energy and it's naturally dark. So that's what I got. I said I was gonna finish this off. This little I can't believe I used so much today. I'm gonna have to ask my dad about this because I'm pretty sure I'm not supposed to allow the wood to burn, but maybe you do. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why I just said I'm pretty sure because I absolutely have no idea. Um, I wanted to pull one of the some cards from the Angelarium Oracle of Emanations, but I didn't grab those before, and this is already a little longer, so maybe I won't. I don't know. I am going to end with the bowl, though. And look, it's the solar plexus bowl. One of my friends was like, I think I said it before, but she was like, it sounds like you. I was like, does it really? The solar plexus is not the chakra that I would have thought would have found its way to me. But the solar plexus, it's the chakra that I'm learning the most in this lifetime. Like I said, sloth is the last of the seven deadly sins that I'm working with. I feel like I've reached the point where I can be over it. Last night I had a little bit of a gluttony problem. but, but anyway, so I can see the solar plexus because, it's sloth, you know? Oh, what is that? Oh, that feels light. Okay. All right. I hope you have a good whatever, whenever. And I hope you are acting in alignment to make that which you wish to experience your reality. And that's what I got. If you enjoyed it, if you liked it, leave me a like. I guess I'll appreciate it, right? I don't know. All right, I'm just being silly, but feel free. Y'all know the stuff. Sometimes I actually forget to like a video. It's weird, but then they'll be like, "Oh, leave me a like." I'll be like, "Oh, snap! I forgot. Let me go and like it." And then I'm like, if they don't say something, sometimes I'm already off to the next video, and then I'm like, "Crap! I wanted to like that. I don't feel like going back." Oh well. Something about me kind of wants to stay in this space. I feel like I've said everything I need to say today. This is such an interesting energy, though. I'll hold it, right? If you feel this energy, hold it, be in it, enjoy it, put that energy in your now moment into the collective now moment. And maybe somebody somewhere who needs it the most will find a bit of peace, or their mind will ease up a little bit, or their heart, or whatever they need, even if it's outside of their ability to fully do for themselves at the time. Because sometimes it just takes a moment to just like, it's that feeling. And it's like, okay, I can do this. I got this. It's manageable. Don't forget to breathe. All right. Bye.